Good morning, mindful meal preppers. My name is Em, and this is Life's Table. This morning, we are going to be making a budget-friendly version of my favorite breakfast, shakshuka. You can see the ingredients listed here in this photo, along with the prices that I paid for each item. Just to bring you all up to speed, I have decided to take on a challenge that I'm calling the 3-4-5 challenge. Make 3 meals, serving at least 4 people for less than $5 per serving. Now, if you're doing some quick mental math here, or if you're just like seeing the ingredients and the totals that I paid at the top of those lists, you're probably noticing that my total amount comes to more than $20 for this meal. Oh my gosh, Em, how have you already managed to fail at your first ever budgeting challenge? Do not fret, my sous chefs. The ingredients that are absolutely required to make this meal are listed in blue, and the prices definitely do meet the $20 mark. The pink ingredients were purchased as part of the full grocery haul that I did for all 3 meals that I'll be cooking for this week's challenge. So 12 servings for less than $60. And in case you missed it, you can see everything that I purchased in the video linked below. Assuming you did not though, tie back your hair if you have to, put on an apron if you've got one, and let's get cooking good looking. There's a lot to be learned today at Life's Table. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the things that we need. I'm gonna put this here on the back burner. Awesome, we should definitely be able to see that here. Set the pot on the side. Set your heat to medium lowish, and we're just gonna let that sit for a little bit while we move on to the cutting board and our knife. Okay, I will go ahead and start off by admitting a couple of things to you. The first one being, I'm pretty new to cooking. Like, I love to cook and I have a fair amount of experience with cooking, but definitely nothing in a professional setting, and most of it has kind of just been like following recipes and figuring my way out. That said, I am a huge foodie and I love to eat, and I do really enjoy my time in the kitchen. So one of the goals that I have here is to have you all cook with me, and hopefully you eventually will learn the kitchen skills and the confidence to be able to do this on your own, but also, again, to touch upon some of these other really invaluable life skills that I perhaps could impart on you all. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first step in making shakshuka is going to be take your onion. Now this is a massive onion. I actually only need about 1/3 of this. So what I'm going to do is chop off the top. We're going to chop off the bottom. And here's, we're going to take the sticker off. Here's something that you all can start doing, and this is like kitchen 101. This is one of the little kitchen tricks that I've learned from the past. Save the skins, save the scraps of your vegetables, because they can go into a delicious homemade veggie broth or veggie stock later on down the line. I'm gonna go and get a Ziploc baggie for this so I can put it in the freezer and save it for when I'm ready to make them, along with some of my other kitchen scraps too. Put it away. All right. Again, we only need about 1/3 of this onion, so I'm gonna cut like a relative 1/3 out of here. And I'm gonna set the rest aside for the 2 other videos that I'm going to be making in the near future that also require onion. Take the skin off. Okay, you'll notice here, very much a novice, all right? But flat side down. And make 4 to 5, we'll say about 1 centimeter thick cuts across the top. This one's gonna be the fun one, okay? So what that ultimately does is gets you, if you can see like the little rings here, all of these rings are then gonna automatically just divide and peel off themselves, right? They pop off as is, okay? Nice little rings. And then from there, that's when we do our chops, okay? Is this going to make universal, perfect little cuts so that all of your onion is uniform and the same size and the same shape. No, absolutely not. But does my mouth care that my onion tastes like an onion and does not have the consistency of a Michelin star quality restaurant onion? No, my mouth does not, and my stomach does not. And honestly, that's the more important audience that we're appealing to right here now. So we're gonna go ahead and set these aside, and we're gonna move on to our pepper. Okay, remove the sticker, rinse off camera, come on back, all right? And I'm going to, with my pepper, cut the top off of it, like so. Twist and pull. And this should take most of the head off of the pepper. So you see, almost empty. There's like a couple of things in here. You can go in with your hands and just kind of peel them out here. Give a little tap against your sink to get the remainder of the seeds out. And now we've got a really good pepper. Now, we're not gonna waste the rest of this. There's still pretty good pepper on here, but let's go ahead and get started with slicing and dicing the pepper. You want it to be around the same size as the tomatoes, but nothing too crazy. And you know what? These knives are getting pretty dull. So we, in a little bit, are gonna have to do a knife sharpening video. I like to, once again, cut from the inside out and cut downwards like this. I'm sure that there are chefs screaming at the screen right now, but I have found that this kind of is the best, most efficient way for me to accomplish what needs to get done. Again, with regards to my pepper slices, it does not matter that they are not uniform, that they're not the same shape, that they're not the same size. They're still going to taste absolutely delicious. We'll get like 2 more cuts in here. They're going to taste absolutely delicious, and they do not care. The pan, the knife, the pepper, the mouth, they don't care. I promise you that. I've been a professional eater, semi-professional eater for 30 some odd years now. My mouth does not care. Promise you that. Okay. We got about 3 chops out of that. Now, at this point, our pan should be just about heated up enough. You can cut around the lid here. I don't know that it's called a lid. I don't know what this is called. The lid of the pepper. We'll go with that. Okay, cut around the lid. The remainder also goes into your veggie scrap bag here. Oops. Okay. So, at this point, your pan should be hot enough. I'm going to take a little water, and we're going to drop. And you see how these little balls just start like dancing around, okay? This is called the light and frost effect, and it means that your pan is definitely hot enough to start cooking, okay? So, what we're going to do is take a little bit of our olive oil that we purchased, okay? Open this up, if we can. There we go. Man, some of these are difficult. Oh, I'm used to buying a different brand, but this is part of the challenge, is perhaps buying groceries that we wouldn't otherwise buy to make it work. So we're gonna go with like 1, 2, all right? 2 little circles of olive oil. We'll say that that equates to like 2 to 3, maybe 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna give it a little slide around so that it fully coats the bottom of the pan. And then I am going to drop my onions and my peppers into the pan. You should immediately hear a sizzle. Woo-hoo. Man, oh man. All right. And now that it's in the pan, we'll go ahead and give it a good little stir. A spatula will do. All right. Give it a good little toss. And what I like to do then is hit the little onion chunks to break them up a little bit more. All right. We're going to turn this heat down to low because we do want this to soften without really burning. But that said, We're getting a good little fry going. It already smells good in here. I'm so excited for this. So I'll set this down over here. And next I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open up my whole peeled tomatoes, as well as crush up my garlic. So for my garlic, I'm gonna break off, we'll say three cloves, or however many, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that might actually be 4. It is. It's like 3 and a half. All right. What I want to do, for those of you who have never cut garlic before, I'm going to take the flat side of my knife, the palm of my hand, or the heel of my hand, if you will, and press until you hear that crunch. I'll do it again. There. This makes it a lot easier to separate and peel the garlic skin from the garlic itself. So what I wanted to do, and the inspiration for doing this, I attended a food insecurity conference the other week that really opened my eyes and shocked me, truly, to how bad our country has become in terms of cost of living and being able to afford to put food on our table. The statistics say that 1 in 7 Americans is facing food insecurity, which means that 1 in 7 people is asking themselves questions like, when am I going to eat next? Where is that food going to come from? How am I going to afford to feed myself and my family? So on and so forth. And it's heartbreaking. That's truly heartbreaking. Furthermore, we run into a lot of issues that we find as well of healthy versus unhealthy eating. A lot of myths are out there saying things like, healthy eating is expensive eating. I can't afford to eat healthy. I have to eat the junk food and the unhealthy stuff. It's cheaper and it's more affordable. And in large part, sure, I think that there is some truth to that. But I think what has happened is we've got our advertising agencies and our major corporations that profit off of people eating unhealthy and junk food and making it seem like so much more than it is. All right, we'll give this a stir. Up the heat just a little bit. Okay. Your onions and your peppers should be softening up a fair bit, which is good. We want them to get softened up. All right. And now we move on to our tomatoes. Find a can opener, if we can. Clearly this is not my kitchen. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It really, those figures and those statistics really stuck with me of just how bad it's gotten. And I walked away from that feeling like there has to be something that can be done. And then this idea popped into my head, and we'll see if it's any good. We'll see if it's actually worth a damn. But yeah, moving on. We're going to take our whole peeled tomatoes, and one at a time, we're just going to give them a rough chop. So like 1, 2, 3. 1. This one's smaller, so we don't need 3. They're going to get sauce and soup and juice on your cutting board. That's okay, because ultimately it's all going to go in. If you want to avoid that, actually, you can give a little squeeze like I'm doing here back into the can so that less gets on the cutting board. You make less of a soupy mess on your cutting surface. Makes fart noises. I am a child, by the way. I will laugh at fart sounds. All right, so I thought to myself, well, there's got to be something that can be done. And while I personally may not have like the professional culinary background experience to help out with kitchen skills the way that Chef Ramsay does or any of the other esteemed culinary experts on YouTube are doing, what I can do is be a novice with you and be an amateur cook and chef with you. And maybe together along this way, I can convince you that it is possible to eat healthy and serve a lot of people on less than $20 per meal. And also maybe teach you a couple of things that I do know and I am an expert in. Things like personal finance, things like relationships and life skills, things like healthy communication, conflict management, stress management, anger and emotional regulation, sex, suicide, and other things like that. Now that we've given our veggies a shot, you still want all of this delicious tomato juice that we have here. Whoops, spilled right on the counter. You want to add that in. Get it nice and soupy. You want to add in the tomatoes. And now, for the best part, the spices. I love me some spices. They're quite expensive, especially in the beginning, but I was able to actually do a pretty decent job of buying. I've surprised myself. I was able to buy salt, pepper, and 2 spices to begin this cooking journey. We started with cumin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. We're gonna take we're gonna go with 2 teaspoons of crushed red pepper. Maybe even 1. We'll turn this back up. I'm not hearing it simmer at all, so the heat's too low. If you don't like spice, don't do it. If you like spice, do more of it. All right. We're gonna take black pepper. Oy. For sure putting the lid back on this one. We're just gonna give this a light peppering in the same way that you would pepper your dish normally. That's about how much pepper we're going to use. And then last but not least, our salt. Shoot. There we go. Oh my gosh. All right. And we're going to do quarter teaspoon. We're going to do about a small palmful. We'll say like 2 tablespoons. All right. Give these a stir. And then we let it just do its delicious thing and release its flavors and thicken up. Stir all the way through. Make sure that those tomatoes are evenly dispersed. Make sure that the onions are a little bit everywhere. Make sure the peppers are good. Make sure that you don't see any more of those spices just like clumping up and sitting directly on top. And now we let it sit. And we're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes to just kind of do its thing. All right, and in that 5 minutes, what I want us to do now is open up and grate our cheese. Okay. If you don't have a cheese grater, that's okay. Doesn't matter to the cheese that you use a knife versus a cheese grater. I do happen to have a cheese grater, so I am going to use it. And because this is serving 8, and the cheese thing says there are 8 servings in this container, perfect. I'm gonna grate up the whole thing of cheese, setting it on the same cutting board as has been everything else, okay? I'm going to go ahead and use slightly larger side. Truly, it does not matter, but we'll go ahead and just get grating. All right, this shouldn't take too long. This is one of the easier parts of the process, but I'm sure you're actually going faster than me if you're chopping. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this challenge. Here's what these next few weeks are going to look like. At the beginning of every month, I'm going to challenge myself to go from an empty pantry to a full one throughout the course of the month, still only spending $20 per meal. The meals themselves have to serve at least 4 people, so Shakshuka making 8. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We're getting low on the cheese, which is good. Just in time to crack the eggs over. Okay, So, cheese is grated. Doesn't take that long, and I personally like the fresher cheese versus the shredded cheese because it will dissolve better and more naturally into things like shakshuka. We're gonna keep going because this meal at this point is almost done. All right. Okay. So at this point, we've got a delicious simmering, good shakshuka going. You can smell the aromas. By the way, if you did want to add more spices, things to add to this, if you have it, curry, turmeric, some paprika would be amazing. Really, you can kind of go crazy as you want with regards to the spice blend. But we're going to go ahead and add and stir in the cheese. And get that just about everywhere. Nice, good, ooey cheesy deliciousness. All right, this is going to be where a lot of the protein comes from, plus your dairy. All right, give it a stir. Let that meld in here. It's already beginning to melt, which is delicious and exciting. Parsley is another really good one. Giving this cheese a good stir through. Again, we'll show you what this looks like now. Now that it's pretty evenly dispersed and going through, what I'm going to do is crack 8 eggs over the top of this, and I'll show you what this looks like here in just a second. We've got our eggs. All right, and we're gonna start cracking. If you can do it gently and you keep them intact, I'll show you what this is going to start looking like here in just a second. 2, 3, 4, 5. By the way, crack eggs on a soft, a hard, flat surface. It makes it easier, less likely for shells to fall in, unless of course you drop the whole eggshell in, like I just did. Okay, 7, 8. All right, I'm going to cover this with a lid to really let the steam go through. I'm going to toss my eggshells, into the sink now that we're done with them. No use for eggshells, unfortunately. Although you can, if you've got chickens or pets even, you can feed it to them. And we wait. Back to food insecurity. We're jumping around a lot, and I think until I get used to this formatting, that's just how it's going to be. When it comes to life skills, budgeting, and food insecurity, it all comes down to the money. And most importantly, how well you track that money. The first step to financial freedom is to begin budgeting. For those of you who already budget, I would love to hear what you recommend and what works for you in the comments and why it works for you. What works for some people does not necessarily work for others, but we do have a few options. The first one being the apps. There are so many apps out there. You also have more of the old school styles of things like Excel spreadsheets, things like pen and paper, if you really want to get back into the nitty gritty of it all. And then the envelope method. Essentially what happens with the envelope method, you withdraw X amount of dollars per month, and that is in cash the money you will spend per month. You divide up how much money needs to go into your rent and utilities envelope. You put that cash there and you set it aside and you don't touch it for anything else. And if you go over that budget, well, you then run out of money and you need to face the decision of, I need to keep eating, so what is it going to be? I tend to go towards the old school variety. There is something about me watching myself type in and track these expenses and see what I have spent money on and go, oh my gosh, why did I think to do that? What was I thinking in this moment, spending that much money on this thing? There's more of a requirement on my end to be actively involved in budgeting. And that to me then gives me more power and more control and more accountability. Find a method that works for you and know that the first month that you start budgeting is going to be difficult. Take that month to just track and observe what's going on and where your major expenses are coming from. Once you have done that, future months can then be dedicated towards figuring out places for us to save, places where we could possibly even afford to spend a little bit more if we pulled from some of these other places. And that would be helpful and beneficial. Things like paying ourselves, for example, putting money into a savings account. Things like a little bit more money can get put towards debt now that we know where it's going. Budgeting generally involves 3 different types of people when it comes to budgeting. The first type of person is the one who sweats the pennies. We think about this person and they have allotted, for example, the $20 for groceries for this meal, and if they go over and it's $21.07 because they forgot to factor in tax, oh my gosh, y'all, freak out, panic mode. We are $1.07 above our limit. What are we going to do? We are going to starve. Oh my gosh. That's not how budgeting works. Budgeting doesn't work well for these types of people, the ones who sweat the pennies, the ones who don't see the forest for the trees. Okay? The next type of person when it comes to budgeting is the type of person who thinks this will be my saving grace and I will notice changes immediately. Budgeting and dedicating yourself and putting in the hard work for the first month is wonderful, but if you expect to be hundreds of dollars back in the green, unfortunately, that's not how it works. A lot of times when we think about budgeting, we do think about the slow, incremental, gradual changes. In the same way that it takes more than a month to find ourselves in that bad place, it's going to take more than a month for us to dig ourselves out of that bad place. So I want to finish off today with the third type of person that budgets do work for. And these are the people who track the expenses and they then study, okay, I have a baseline, I have a target, I have a goal for about what I should be achieving. How far to the left or to the right can I now deviate from that target and still be okay? That is what budgeting is for. It is for flexibility, not for restriction. With that, I'm going to make a plate. I'm going to go sit down at the table and show you how delicious this thing is. I hope that you all learned something today at Life's Table. Again, my name is Em. And tune in a little bit later to make a very delicious, filling, hearty soup with me as we discuss more personal finance topics. Bon appetit!